Well, so today we will be discussing the forensic medicine questions which had appeared in the recently concluded FMG examination 2021. Okay, so there are definitely a good number of forensic questions in the recently appeared examination. These questions, obviously, we have collected it by the method of recall by the students. So the questions which I'll be discussing might not be verbatim, exactly the same words. Uh, uh, what exactly I would like to say here is these questions at least convey what the examiners wanted to ask from you and what answers were expected, at least which topic or which subject was discussed more. So this idea we definitely get from those questions. Okay, so again reiterate here that these questions are recall questions, so they may not be verbatim, but definitely they give us a clue about the question, at least a clue about the question, and based on that clue we will be discussing completely, okay, about that particular topic. And it's good to know that almost all the questions which had appeared in forensic medicine have been from the notes of eGurukul. So I have taken the screenshot of those notes. So based on the same screenshot of that notes, I'll be discussing here. So just clearly we want to just highlight the points that those students who have read the notes here would have done it wonderfully, would have done it definitely wonderfully. Okay, so let's start with the first question here. The question says, gutter fracture of the skull is associated with the impact by. So gutter fracture. So definitely the answer here is the gutter fracture is due to the bullet injury. It is due to the bullet injury. So what happens here? So what happens here is, let me just demonstrate here. Now let us say this is the skull. Okay. So this is the outer table of the skull. Let's say this is the outer table and the inner table. Okay. This is the inner and this is the outer table. So what happens here is the bullet is not hitting the skull head on here. The bullet hits the skull, just grazes it, just taps it or it grazes it. So this grazing of the bullet, what happens? A part of the outer table is chipped off like this with an intact inner table. So when the bullet just grazes the skull or just slaps the skull or just kisses the skull, so outer table is chipped off, leaving behind a gutter over there, what is called as gutter fracture. So as the screenshot from the note says, so here is the gutter fracture very clearly. So it is seen due to bullet glance or a bullet graze or a slap of the bullet on the skull. Okay, so wherein a part of the outer table will be chipped off, leading to a gutter, which is referred as gutter fracture. Okay, now option C here, we just need, I'll just take a different colored pen. Yeah. So a part of fall from the height, a person falling from a great height and landing on his feet. Fall from a great height and landing on his feet. It's a repeated question. So falling from a height and landing on the feet results in a ring fracture. So this results in ring fracture. So what's a ring fracture? So if you take the base of the skull and the foramen magnum, so ring fracture is a fracture. Okay, I'll take different color here. Okay. So ring fracture is a fracture in the form of a ring or a circle around the foramen magnum. So fracture in the form or in the shape of a ring or a circle around the foramen magnum seen when a person falls from a height and lands on his feet. Okay, bullet graze causes gutter fracture. Okay, so let's move to the next question. So the next question goes like this. Again, I have for every question I keep saying this may not be the exact, but cherry red postmortem staining was definitely the question. So cherry red postmortem staining is associated with which poisoning? Okay, which poisoning? So let us just look into each of the option here. Let us look into each of the option. So H2S causes greenish blue. Causes greenish blue. The color of the postmortem staining for H2S will be greenish blue. Nitrates, regarding nitrates, so one, some of most of the textbooks say it is chocolate brown, okay, chocolate brown, or some of the textbooks also say it is reddish brown. Okay, chocolate brown or reddish brown. Carbon monoxide is definitely the answer. Cherry red discoloration is due to carbon monoxide. So this is the answer. And cyanide produces bright red. The discoloration will be bright red discoloration. Okay, bright red discoloration. Now, some of the other, I'll just want to take a take note here so that I can explain the things. Other poisons which give specific discoloration. Okay, so very frequently asked question for us, phosphorus. Phosphorus. So phosphorus gives dark brown, or some of the textbooks say even yellow. Yellow can be taken as this. So dark brown or yellow. Okay, phosphorus. Then opium. Opium, black, postmortem staining. Opium is black. Okay. Then deep blue, yes, deep blue is given by carbon dioxide. Okay, so I'll come again. Cherry red is given by carbon monoxide. Bright red, cyanide. Dark brown, phosphorus. Chocolate brown, chlorates and nitrates. Reddish brown, sometimes nitrates. Deep blue, carbon dioxide. Black, opium. Dark brown, phosphorus, as we discussed. So these are some of the different discolorations given by the poisons for post-mortem staining. So again, so these were probably the type of photographs which are you seeing here. So cherry red discoloration, as can be seen in the photograph, both these photographs. Okay, such cherry red discoloration of post-mortem staining is given by carbon monoxide poison. So this can be very clearly seen here. So at what percentage of carbon monoxide concentration you see this particular cherry red discoloration? Even that's a repeated question for you. So that's a repeated question. So at 30 to 40%, as clearly given in the notes here, at the percentage of 30 to 40% percent of carbon monoxide in the body, so the skin and the mucous membrane, they become cherry red. So discoloration at 30 to 40%. One more very frequently repeated question regarding carbon monoxide is, at what percentage of carbon monoxide in the body the signs and symptoms resemble alcohol intoxication? At 40 to 50%. At 40 to 50% concentration, carbon monoxide resembles alcohol intoxication. A repeated question. Now, what is the antidote for this? So, antidote for carbon monoxide is 100% oxygen. So, antidote is 100%. So, antidote will be 100. So, let's take out the highlight now here. So, it is 100% oxygen. Okay. So 100% oxygen given under pressure is the specific antidote for carbon monoxide poison. Okay. So let's move to the next question. In Barberio's test, yellow colored needle shaped crystals are seen under the microscope. So this test is done to detect. Okay. Obviously, this is done to detect semen. So this is the test for semen. Okay. So few points, important points regarding the Barberio's test. Well, this is the photograph, as you can see. So that's the photograph. Okay, yellow needle shaped crystals. Okay, this is again directly from the notes. So Barberio's test. The test reaction depends on the presence of spermine. This is spermine picrate. So let's go to the next slide so that I can explain it more. So Barberio's test, some important points regarding that. So the test reaction depends on the presence of spermine, which is from prostate. So reaction gives a yellow needle-shaped rhombic crystals of spermine picrate. So this is how the yellow needle-shaped rhombic crystals of spermine picrate of Barberio's test looks like. Okay. So this is the Barberio's test for seminal analysis. The next question. A person admitted with tachycardia, arrhythmia, and scratch marks on the skin. So what is the diagnosis? Okay, again I'm repeating it for every question. This might not be the verbatim, but a question similar to this. Okay, So tachycardia, arrhythmia, and scratch marks. So scratch marks, this is the clinching point for us. So in fact, yes, this scratch marks is the clinching point in this question for us, which is nothing but tactile hallucination, because of which the person goes on scratching the skin. Okay, so this is definitely cocaine. So this is definitely cocaine. So this the tactile hallucinations in cocaine. Now regarding cocaine, regarding the other options, I'll come to that later. First, let's discuss about cocaine itself. So sometimes the photograph of the coca leaves can be asked as a question, as an image-based question. So this is exactly, so, yeah. So coca leaves. So these are the coca leaves from which the cocaine is obtained. Okay. So it's the other names of cocaine, the slang names of cocaine. They are questions again. So it is called as white lady, coke, Cadillac, snow. Many slang names for that. White lady, coke, Cadillac, snow. Okay. This is also a question. Cigarettes containing cocaine are called as crack. So cigarettes containing cocaine are referred as crack. Okay, crack. Now, the actions of this, it's a powerful CNS depressant, it's a local anesthetic. The signs and symptoms, we call it as two stages, rash and crash. So rash is the stage wherein intense euphoria, excitement and intense euphoria. So that is the stage wherein if you a systemic examination reveals pulse is increased, respiratory rate is increased, there can be arrhythmias, there is hypertension. So pulse, BP, respiratory rate, arrhythmias, all can be seen, increase of that. So tachycardia, hypertension, arrhythmias, increased respiratory rate, plus euphoria. Immediately after that, which lasts for about 30 to 60 minutes, is euphoria, followed by intense depression, what we call as crash. So in order to overcome this crash, the person is very much, what you can say, obliged again to take the cocaine. Okay, he has to overcome that. So he's hell bent upon to take cocaine again. Rash followed by crash again. To obtain rash, he goes back. Okay. Now the most common modality of obtaining cocaine or using cocaine is by snorting. So chronic cocaine poisoning, the some of the important symptoms which are repeated questions for us. Chronic cocaine poisoning. If you look into the notes, chronic cocaine poisoning is called as cocainism or cocainophagia, okay, or even cocainomania. So the important points to be noted here is one, black discoloration of teeth and tongue. So black discoloration. So black discoloration of teeth and the tongue. It's a repeated question is seen with cocaine. Okay. Then painless perforation of nasal septum. Very repeated question seen with cocaine. Then particularly coming to the particular question now, which was asked, malignant symptoms, also called as cocaine bugs or formication, which is nothing but tactile hallucination. So he feels that bugs or insects are crawling or particles are crawling beneath the skin and he goes on scratching the skin. So these are tactile hallucinations. And also lastly, bruxism or grinding of teeth. So these 4 points are important repeated questions for you. Black discoloration of teeth and tongue, painless perforation of nasal septum, bruxism, and most importantly, malignant symptom or tactile hallucination. Then, what is the specific antidote? Amyl nitrite. Amyl nitrite is the specific antidote. What is the medical legal importances of cocaine? Cocaine, first of all, is the second most commonly used illicit drug, which is the first one, cannabis. One of the option over there. I'll come to that. So, second most commonly used illicit drug. Then cocaine plus heroin, when given IV, is referred as speedball. Cocaine and heroin given IV is referred as speedball. Okay. Now, these are all the points, important points that you need to remember regarding cocaine. Okay. Now coming to heroin, uh, regarding heroin, see in heroin, all these vital signs are reduced. I'll take note here so that I can expand more. Right. So in case of heroin, okay. So if we discuss heroin, so in case of this, so there is decrease in the pulse rate, in the blood pressure, and the respiratory rate. So all are decreased, whereas in cocaine, all are raised. Whereas in heroin, pulse rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rate are decreased. And here you don't get scratch marks. Uh, the most common modality of usage of heroin is obviously by injecting it. By injecting it. So what you get here is that specific word, needle tract ulcers. Needle tract ulcers. So if the question has this particular one, needle tract ulcers and all the vitals being reduced, it has to be heroin. It has to be heroin. Okay. The other part is cocaine, what we just discussed. Now, what is the other? What are the other options here? LSD. See, regarding LSD, got to remember the important point. LSD is the most potent hallucinogenic agent that is used. The most potent hallucinogenic agent is LSD. Most potent hallucinogenic agent. Cannabis, well, there is loads to say about cannabis. Well, cannabis, one of the most important point is it is the world's most commonly used illicit or illegal drug. World's most commonly used illicit or illegal drug. Second most is cocaine. First most commonly used is cannabis. Okay, so these are the points you got to remember. So let's move on to the next question. So next question is something like this. In an unconscious patient with head injury requiring emergency surgery, if there are no relatives to give consent, what should the doctor do? Now, let us consider a scenario wherein, let's say, a person was lying by the side of a railway track, injured by a railway accident. He is unconscious. He has sustained multiple injuries. Some bystanders who just have a look of this person, they get this patient from the railway track to the casualty. Now, in the casualty, upon assessing the condition of the patient, the doctor is very sure that imminently or immediately some surgery or some procedure has to be done in order to save the life of the patient. Let's say amputation has to be done immediately. But though the patient might be major by age, but he is unconscious, he cannot give consent. And he has been brought by some bystanders, not his own relatives. So neither they can give consent. But the doctor is very sure if he is going to wait till his actual relatives come and give consent, the patient might not survive. In all likelihood, the patient might die. So in such a scenario, that is what we call as emergency. What shall the doctor do? So this is answered by section 92 of IPC. So section 92. So section 92 of IPC answers this question. So what it says, in such an emergency, wherein saving the life of the patient is paramount. So nothing will be an offense which is done in good faith and for saving the life of the patient, even without the consent, when the conditions or situation is such that it is not possible to obtain consent either from the patient or the relatives of the patient. So emergency situation, it is not possible to obtain consent either from the patient or the relatives of the patient. So any act done in good faith for the benefit or to save the life of the patient is, and without any consent is not an offense. 92 IPC. So based on which the doctor can operate without consent. Can operate without consent. Again, definitely from the notes. Okay, the question directly from the notes. Next question. A farmer was brought to casualty with pinpoint pupil, increased secretions, garlicky odor. This particular word might be sometimes misleading. I'll come to that. So, which drug is used by the doctor for treatment? I don't again say it is a verbatim question. A question similar to this was asked. Okay. Now, garlicky odor very specifically is seen with arsenic, and very much in phosphorus, arsenic and phosphorus. Okay, garlicky odor. Well, some textbooks also mention that even in organophosphorus poisoning, we get garlicky is seen at times, not always. But what is the most common smell? The most common and always seen particular specific smell in OP is kerosene like smell. Okay, kerosene like smell is very specific for organophosphorus compounds. Okay, so the gastric contents have kerosene smell, right? Sometimes, yes, it can also be seen is garlicky, right? So, what is the specific antidote? Now, if this question or if the examination is such that where it can be answered by multiple questions or multiple answers, well, both A and B will be the answer. Both A and B, multiple. But if both are given and you are bound to choose a single option, atropine is your single best answer. Okay, atropine is your single best answer. Okay, fine. Now, so let's look into some of the changes in OP. Again, I'm taking all the directly. I'm taking it from notes. Okay, so I'm just taking the screenshot from notes, and we'll go on discussing the things here. Right. So these are the things which you already know. OP is most common. So muscarinic symptoms. I'll just take the highlighter. Okay. So muscarinic symptoms can be remembered by the word sludge, salivation, lacrimation, urination, emesis, meiosis, diarrhea. Nicotinic best remembered by the mnemonic match. So muscle weakness, areflexia, tachycardia, cramps and hypertension. CNS manifestations, basically the weakness, depression, drowsiness, headache, depression of respiratory center, finally coma and death. Okay, the very important point to remember is one of the important signs and symptom commonly asked as a question: chromolacryuria. Chromolacryuria, which is shedding red colored tears, shedding of red colored tears because of abnormal porphyrin metabolism. Because of abnormal porphyrin metabolism is definitely a feature in OP poisoning. Okay. Now, regarding the diagnosis, the repeated question is placed. See, true cholinesterase, it affects, of course, basically it affects both. It affects both the true and pseudo cholinesterase. But true cholinesterase, which is nothing but RBC, acetylcholinesterase, this is the most specific indicator of OP. Most specific, the word is specific, is true cholinesterase or RBC cholinesterase or acetylcholinesterase. Now, pseudocholinesterase. Pseudocholinesterase, or which is nothing but plasma cholinesterase or butyryl cholinesterase, is most sensitive. The words are important. Most specific, true cholinesterase or RBC or acetyl. Most sensitive, pseudocholinesterase or plasma or butyryl cholinesterase. Okay. Well, treatment specific, atropine and oximes. Right. So this is about OP. Let's move to the next question. Yes, the question is, judicial hanging is a method of execution of condemned criminal in our country, in India. So cause of death, the most common cause of death in such cases. Well, it's a direct question. Definitely the cause of death is fracture cervical vertebrae. Fracture of cervical vertebrae. Okay. So again, the question is well explained in the notes. Those who have read the notes can easily answer that. So here is the notes, and I'll just go on highlighting the points. Okay. Well, this particular question is repeated with certain other. I'll just write down the few points here. I'll take the pen. Okay. Well, the not in judicial hanging, very frequently asked question for us. So the not in judicial hanging is most commonly placed side of neck. Most commonly placed, it is the side of the neck or at the angle of the mandible or the side of the neck. More specifically, it is the right side of the neck is what the textbooks say. Most commonly, but most effective is when the knot is placed at the chin. Both of these are questions for you. Okay, so it is given over here. The knot is placed at the side of the neck most commonly, but the most effective is said to be when it is placed at the chin. Okay, chin. So, well, cause of death. So, with proper judicial hanging, there will be rupture of brainstem between the pons and medulla. Okay, so basically, it is the fracture of the cervical vertebra, rupture of brainstem between pons and medulla, instant the death. So there will be instant and irreversible loss of consciousness. Okay, so most common cause of death is vertebral fracture, which is hangman's fracture. Okay, so vertebral fracture in case of hanging, which is referred as hangman fracture. Okay, right. Now, the repeated question here: what is hangman's fracture? So, Hangman's fracture, one is, see, fracture dislocation at the level of C2, C3 is Hangman's fracture. And also, the bilateral fracture of either pedicle or laminae of C2, even that is also called as Hangman's fracture. So as it's given, so it is typically seen when there is knot at the chin. Okay, typically seen. The fracture dislocation at the level of C2, C3 is called as Hangman fracture, but also bilateral fracture of either pedicle or the laminae of C2 is also called as Hangman fracture. Now, similarly, bilateral fracture of either pedicle of or lamina of C1 is what we call as Jefferson's fracture. Of C1 is called as Jefferson's fracture. Then there is an artifact. A fracture dislocation at the level of C6, C7 is called as Undertaker fracture. Even this is a question. So Undertaker fracture C6, C7. So Hangman's fracture C2, C3 or specifically pedicles or lamina of C2. Okay, that of C1 Jefferson's, C6, C7 Hangman's fracture. Most common cause of death in judicial hanging, fracture of cervical vertebra. Most common cause of death in hanging, if they don't ask it as judicial hanging, most common cause of death in hanging, so that will be combination of asphyxia and cerebral venous congestion. Combination of asphyxia and cerebral venous congestion if the question is just hanging. Most common cause of death. If it is specifically judicial hanging, this is fracture of cervical vertebra. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Well, the question was something like this here, as given here. So I'll take the pen. Okay, and I get different take. Let's take this. Okay. So 35-year-old patient comes to casualty with a history of unknown poison, but they say on examination, the patient presented with dilated pupils, dry mouth, decreased secretions. So which poisoning should the doctor suspect? Very clearly indicating it is Datura. Very clearly indicating it's a case of Datura. Okay. So Datura, again, this question definitely was discussed in the notes. Very deeply it has been given, including the photographs. So let's discuss that. So photograph of Datura fruit that itself is a question. It's an image based question for you. Okay. So Datura fruit, thorn apple as it is also called. So what are the clinical features of Datura? All begin with the alphabet D. Okay. So delirium, diplopia, dimness of vision, dilatation of pupils, dryness of mouth, dysphagia, dysphonia, everything starts with D. Okay. Now, speaking about delirium, the very first D, so this is associated with carphologia. So carphologia is purposeless movements like pill rolling. It's not pin, it's pill rolling movements. Picking up the bedclothes, picking up the clothes. This is very commonly seen. These patients very seriously they will be pulling out the threads from the bed linen. Very seriously they will be pulling out. They'll be holding on to their fingers, and from the tip of the fingers they'll be pulling out seriously the threads. Very seriously they'll be pulling out threads from the tips of the fingers. Very seriously they'll be trying to thread an imaginary needle. Continuously they'll be trying to thread an imaginary needle. So purposeless such movements, carphologia associated with Datura. Frequently asked question. Okay. So fatal dose 100 to 125 seeds. Specific antidote physostigmine. Specific antidote physostigmine. Okay. Now, before I go to this, now what exactly is this medical legal importance of this Datura? See, medical legal importance of Datura, which is again a very important question for us, is it is used as stupefying agent. Some of you might not be able to see here. It is used as stupefying agent for rape, robbery, and kidnap. Rape, robbery, and kidnap is used as stupefying agent. Okay. Now, what do they do is most commonly seen when the people are traveling in a large flocks in train, for example. Now, at certain junctions, certain people get into the bogies. They become be friendly with the co-passengers, and they offer these co-passengers rotis or chapatis, wherein the atta is mixed with datura powder, or they offer the co-passengers the cigarette or a bidi, wherein tambaku is mixed with datura powder. So, upon consuming datura in any of this form, the person goes into this stupefying or stupefaction mode, what they call it as twilight zone or twilight mode, wherein he does not object to anything, doesn't show resistance to anything. In front of him, his own belongings have been looted, doesn't offer resistance. A female under the influence of Datura doesn't show any resistance for sexual offences. So very similarly, the children, they sprinkle this Datura powder on ice cream or ice candy, offer it to the kids. Upon consuming that, the kids easily follow the kidnapper without any fuss. So that is how it is used as a stupefying agent for rape, robbery, and kidnap. Okay. So let's move to the next question. First two to appear. I'm not very sure how the question was asked, but the first, the gist of the question goes like this: the first two to appear. Well, the correct answer would for that would be lower central incisors. Lower central incisors. Again, the question directly from the notes. Okay. Now, if you look over here, eruption of the teeth. All the teeth. I'll just take highlighter. That would be better. See, all the teeth, both temporary and permanent, erupt first in the lower jaw. So all the teeth, permanent and temporary, appear in lower jaw, except lateral incisors, which first appear in the upper jaw. Except for lateral incisors, every other tooth will appear in the lower jaw first, permanent or temporary. Okay, fine. Now, looking here, temporary tooth, as you can see, central incisors, the lower central incisors, which erupt by 6 months. So this is the first teeth to erupt. Okay. So followed by, I'm just giving you the time of appearance. So followed by upper central incisors by 8 months. Then lateral incisors, as this goes, lateral incisors first appears in the upper jaw. So upper lateral incisors by 10 months, lower by 12 months. The first molar by 14 months, canine by 18 months, second molar 24 to 30 months. This is the time of eruption of temporary teeth. Now, time of eruption of permanent teeth. Yeah, time of eruption of permanent teeth. There's a question again. The first permanent teeth to appear, first molar. As you can see, first molar is the first permanent teeth to appear, which appears by 6 years. After which, if you know the order of appearance of the permanent teeth, you can just go on adding 1 year to that. We call that as annual formula, okay, or yearly formula. So, but you should be knowing the order of appearance. So, after the first molar permanent teeth, the next is central incisors. Sorry, the next is central incisors, followed by lateral incisors. Then first premolar, second premolar, canine, second molar, and third molar. So just go on adding 1 year to that. So central incisors 7 years, lateral incisors 8, first premolar 9, second premolar 10, canine 11, second molar 12 to 14, and third molar, as we all know, 17 to 25 years. So this is the order of appearance of temporary as well as permanent. So questions do appear for both. Okay. Next. It seems so, again, I'm not very sure. It seems so that there was a question pertaining to the this chromosomal abnormality. Question regarding that. That is 47XXY. So what is 47XXY? I'm not sure how this question was asked. I'm not sure whether it was asked, but we have just learned from the students that some question pertaining to this was asked. So 47XXY, again, I just take the highlighter. It is directly from the notes. So that is Klinefelter syndrome, chromosomal abnormality 47XXY. So what are the clinical features? So well, the person is anatomically definitely male, but the nuclear sexing is more like that of a female. Anatomically male, nuclear sexing will be that of female. Okay. So what are the clinical features of that? So delayed onset of puberty, gynecomastia, testicular atrophy, lower levels of testosterone, impotence and sterility, azoospermia, long legs, long arms, and scanty body hair. These three together, sometimes it is referred as eunuchoidism. Eunuchoidism is long, basically long limbs, long upper limbs, long lower limbs with scanty body hair. Eunuchoidism. So these are the typical features of Klinefelter syndrome. Okay. A question was asked is what we believe, but these are the specific features. 47XXY. It is Klinefelter, anatomically male, nuclear sexing is female, and those are the characteristics. Okay. Well, next question. A person has committed a criminal offense was caught by the police, later brought to the criminal court, but the court directs the police to transfer a case, that particular case, to juvenile court if it was proved that accused is of dash years. Now, so obviously, if the case has to be transferred to the juvenile court, the person has to be a juvenile. So, who is a juvenile? Male or a female? Yeah. So male or a female below 18 years is a juvenile. So male or a female below 18 years is a juvenile. So among the given option, obviously the answer is 17 years. Okay. Now, few important points regarding juvenility. Again, the question does appear in the notes in detail. Juvenile justice system has been explained in the notes. Okay. So male or a female, the person less than 18 years is a juvenile. Okay. So any crime or an offense done by a juvenile will be tried by juvenile justice court or juvenile justice board, it is called as. We call it as juvenile courts in general, but it's a juvenile justice board. Now, such a juvenile justice board is always headed by first class judicial magistrate. So juvenile justice board will be headed by a first class juvenile, it's a first class judicial magistrate. Okay, so some of the things are here. Now I will take the highlighter. Okay, so it comprises of first class judicial magistrate. Okay, right. So what is the punishment if a person less than 18 years is convicted of a crime? It is proved that he has committed a crime. Obviously, he cannot be sent to the regular prison. The maximum punishment that can be given is he'll be sent to reformatory school or Borstal school for a maximum period of 3 years. So he'll be sent to reformatory or Borstal school for a maximum period of 3 years. Okay. So that is the maximum punishment for a juvenile who has been convicted of committing a crime. Now, is there an amendment to this? Yes, a very important amendment we should remember. The amendment here is, see, the offences here in case of juvenile justice system have been classified into three types: petty offences, serious and heinous offences. Okay, petty offences is any offence punishable with less than 3 years. Any offence which is punishable with imprisonment of less than 3 years. So any offence which is punishable with an imprisonment between 3 to 7 years is serious offence. So any offence which is punishable with imprisonment of more than 7 years is heinous. Heinous. This is important. More than 7 years. Now, why this is important is the amendment says if a juvenile between the ages of 16 to 18 years, between 16 and 18 years, has committed a heinous offence. Heinous offence is has committed any offence which is punishable with imprisonment of more than 7 years, like rape, murder. So any of these offences which are definitely punishable with more than 7 years, then such a juvenile can be tried as an adult. This is an important amendment. I'll just underline here. So any juvenile between the age group of 16 to 18 years commits a heinous offense, then he can be tried as an adult. This is an important amendment which has to be noted by you. Okay, it's juvenility, thoroughly detailed described in the notes. Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, well, this question, let's take a. Okay. So it's a case of starvation. Okay, again, I'm not sure whether it has appeared or not. Okay, but we have come to know that it has appeared. So in case of starvation, which is the correct in among this? Okay, so in starvation, all organs, okay, all organs are there will be shrinkage or there will be decrease in size. All organs will be shrink. Okay, all organs except yes, except gallbladder. So gallbladder will be distended with bile. Okay, because it's a case of starvation. There is no food, so bile it just doesn't get released because there is nothing to act upon. There is no food, so there is accumulation of bile. So gallbladder is distended in starvation. Okay, all organs are reduced in size. Now the only organ which maintains the size in starvation is brain. So these two are important points. All organs are shrunken The only organ which is increased in size or which gets distended is gallbladder. The only organ which maintains the size is brain. Okay. Now, in case of starvation, no food and water, no food and water, the person dies in 10 to 12 days. Okay. So, without food and water, no food and water, the person dies in 10 to 12 days. So, with only water, if he is provided only with water, person can survive for 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. No food, no water, 10 to 12 days. Only water, he can survive for 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. Next question. A child consumes iron tablets which was used by the mother of the child. Antidote. Antidote. Again, we are not very sure, but this was some type of the question. So, iron antidote obviously is desferrioxamine. Okay. Yes. Well, let's look into the antidotes of other heavy metals. Okay, just here, very important question. Arsenic. Arsenic is BAL, British anti-levisite. If succimer is an option, then succimer is a better one than BAL. Okay, so arsenic, BAL definitely. But if succimer is an option, go for succimer. Then a lead. Lead, it is calcium disodium EDTA. Calcium disodium EDTA specific for lead. Then copper. Copper penicillamine. Penicillamine is copper. And iron desferrioxamine. Okay. Next question. I'm again not very sure how this question was asked. So there was or there seems to be a question on partial hanging and how a partial hanging can resemble strangulation. This seems to be a question. I don't the students which we asked, they were not able to recall it verbatim, but it's supposed that there was a question on this, a partial hanging, and how can a partial hanging resemble strangulation? Well, see, a hanging, in what conditions a hanging resembles strangulation? Okay, so a hanging similar to strangulation. When does it happen? How does it look like strangulation? So, one, the first condition wherein it can resemble strangulation, when there is a slip knot. When there is a slip knot with a running noose. So, when there is a slip knot with running noose, what happens is this ligature material completely encircles the neck because of the slip knot and the running noose. It completely encircles the neck, and the ligature mark will be transverse. The mark will be transverse. Okay, the mark will be transverse. So it completely encircles the neck, and the mark will be transverse, which very much resembles strangulation. But how to differentiate that from strangulation is, in strangulation, the mark, see, in strangulation, the mark is below thyroid. Mark is below the level of thyroid. Okay. Whereas in hanging, the mark will be above the level of thyroid. Okay. Yes, the mark will be above the level of thyroid in case of hanging. Okay, this is how you differentiate. And the second condition wherein a hanging can resemble strangulation because of ligature mark is in case of partial hanging. So in partial hanging, some part of the body will be touching the ground. Some part of the body will be touching the ground. It might be foot, might be knee, even sometimes the buttocks. So when some part of the body is touching the ground, like the feet or the knee, the whole weight of the body is not acting as a constricting force. So what happens here is, in partial hanging, at times, not always, sometimes, because some part touches the ground, the body just falls forward. The body falls forward. So because of falling forward of the body, the ligature mark might be transverse. So there are chances that ligature mark will be transverse because of falling forward of the body, which resembles strangulation. Okay. Now, though the mark resembles strangulation, but the most important clinching difference between hanging and strangulation is once you open the neck. Once you open the neck. See, in case of hanging, once you open the neck, the tissues of the neck are pale, okay, and they are glistening. The tissues are pale and they are glistening in hanging. Whereas in strangulation, the tissues show extensive hemorrhage. The tissues show extensive hemorrhage. So just the moment you open the neck or dissect the neck, if at all there is hemorrhage, it is strangulation. If there is no hemorrhage, you can take it as hanging. That's one of the important differences between hanging and strangulation. Okay. Well, so those were the supposed questions for this year's FMG. So almost more than 90% of them have appeared from the notes. We are definitely happy to say that. And definitely the students who have read that will be more than happy to answer those questions which were directly from our notes. Okay. Wishing you all the best.